Shalom from Jerusalem. This is Israel at War, an update on TV7 News Israel. I'm Amir Owen, sitting in for the traveling Jonathan Hessen, and this is day 644 of the war, which started on October the 7th, 2023, with the horrific attack and massacre by Hamas. Israel has suffered to date 1,940 casualties, 890 of them serving soldiers, airmen, sailors, and police officers, as well as Shabak, the intelligence agency operatives who fell in the line of duty. And with us today, to close this week, are retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett of the U.S. Army and then the Department of State, where you served as the Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs. General Kimmett, welcome.
Good morning.
You seem to be in your Washington area home, in the tri-state area or wherever, a disclosed location, right? Not an undisclosed one. So welcome again. Another reserve brigadier general, we have so many generals, or as President Trump used to say, my generals, Doron Gavish, the commanding general of the Israeli Defense Forces Task Force on Air and Missile Defense, among other additions, liaising with CENTCOM and other foreign militaries. General Gavish, the former commanding officer of the IDF, IAF Air and Missile Defense Units. Welcome.
Thank you, Amir. Happy to be back.
Thank you. And a four-star colonel in the reserves, Miri Eisen, a very senior and seasoned intelligence officer, as well as media communications and what in Israel is called hasbara, in other places information operations, or even less positive terms. Miri, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Now, General Kimmett, for Israelis, this has been a week in which Prime Minister Netanyahu was in Washington. This was the major story of the entire week. His three meetings with President Trump, other meetings with senior officials, Congress, and community leaders. But did it have a lot of impact in DC, where obviously you have other issues such as the Texas tragedy, the flash floods, Ukraine, and all other issues, domestic problems too. Was it a major story?
Well, that's somewhat of a leading question, but you're exactly right. With everything else going on, not to mention the fact that it was also around the 4th of July weekend, the Prime Minister's visit, while important, really didn't crest the crease of the newspaper, as we say. It was important. There were some very important issues discussed between President Trump and the Prime Minister, but because Congress was out of session, because it was the weekend, because it's the doldrums of the summertime, I don't think it necessarily had the effect that Miri, in her information operations capacity, would have liked to have seen result from that meeting.
Miri, most of what happened behind closed doors, and especially in the private meeting, not in the working dinner where there were more than a dozen participants, remains outside of the public domain. Nevertheless, there were indications, including by Netanyahu himself, that they had a meeting of the minds and that more news will follow. However, the families of the hostages, as you know, there are 50 hostages remaining in captivity, 20 alive and 30 dead, but obviously all of the families want their loved ones back immediately. They were disappointed that no news came out of these meetings regarding a definite deal to be done soon. What can you tell us about it?
This week has been a challenging week for us in Israel because it's both the prime minister in Washington and the expectations of what will happen with his meetings with President Trump, but it's also what happened on the ground during this week in Israel with many more soldiers and its numbers. And that's something that inside Israel immediately reverberates, meaning we know of the funerals and what goes on in the different families. And so the issue of both the hostages, but also of the ongoing battles that are going on in the Gaza Strip of Israeli, mainly what we call the drafted soldiers, not just reserve soldiers, though all were killed this week in the Gaza Strip. So when we look at our expectations as opposed to how we feel in the aftermath of this entire week, as we saw these days that the prime minister was there, we expected to hear about a deal. We expected to hear about something that would be concrete. We hoped, I want to say, that deal would be something that would include as many of the hostages as possible. And what happened this week is more soldiers that were killed in the Gaza Strip. And I'm even going to say in a more sophisticated guerrilla type maneuver than we've seen until now in the last 21 months of fighting specifically within the Gaza Strip. So I think it's that gap in expectations which gives us that sense of failure. We did not hear any clear-cut result of this meeting. We didn't hear about a resolution with Syria. We didn't hear about something with Hezbollah, Lebanon, in any way. We didn't hear about where it's going to go with Iran in the aftermath of the 12 days of Operation Rising Lion and the U.S. attack, meaning all of these expectations, a lot of talk, but at the end, none of the statements gave us anything clear-cut of what's supposed to happen now, mid-July 2025, here in Israel and within the Middle East.
General Gavish, when Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the Pentagon, we saw that in his meeting with Secretary of Defense Hegseth, in addition to senior Office of the Secretary of Defense's officials and the apparently the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, not the chairman who was absent, we saw at the end of the table General Eric Michael Kurilla, the commanding general of Central Command, CENTCOM. And he is about to leave his post in a few weeks' time, maybe retire altogether. His future has not been announced. But one picture that made the rounds in certain circles in Israel has shown you personally, General Gavish, along with General Kurilla, and he seems to like you for some reason. What can you share about your impressions of him, perhaps even during the war with Iran?
Well, thank you, Amir. I'm not sure that I could refer to it directly. I could just say in general that General Kurilla is, first of all, a great American patriot and leader, and of course, a great friend of Israel. What happened in the last year and a half, and even more than that, and of course, with the fight, with the war against Iran, was outstanding. And when we are talking about the combined mission that we looked at, which is against our enemies, our combined work together, the defense of Israel, which was and still it is enhanced by U.S. assets which are deployed in our region and also in Israel. So he is really leading CENTCOM during a time that military relations are probably more tight than they ever been, fighting shoulder to shoulder. I said it more than once that this is something that happened during this time. And in General Kurila, his spirit is over there. Everyone feels it. And he is a great leader. And we hope for him for the best, whatever he would decide to do in his next steps. But in our region, 1 month from now, it's a long time. So we never know what would happen. And let's wait for him to really leave before we'll refer to it.
Maybe the IDF can hire him, can use his services. We need some energetic, assertive, even aggressive combat leaders. You don't have to respond. I will respect.
No, I must respond once you said it, because I think that we have a very good and energetic leadership here in Israel. For sure, the new commander of the Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir. So each one can do the best for his own country, and together, shoulder to shoulder, for the world. Bottom line.
Yeah, one remembers that you were also once in a diplomatic post, defense diplomacy in Europe. So your diplomatic skills show very well. While we are still having this one-on-one, General Gavish, the other day there was another Houthi missile out of Yemen, and it was intercepted. And it seems as if the intercept ratio of these missiles out of Yemen is quite better than the one out of Iran, which was good but not excellent. What is the difference?
Well, first of all, you're right. The interception rate from Iran is a bit different from what we've seen from Yemen. But the reason for it is that from Yemen, we don't see the vast salvos that we have been seeing coming from Iran. Usually it's one missile, max two missiles. When the whole defense is focusing on one target, this is completely different from a salvo of hundreds. We know that, by the end of the day, they shot over Israel more than 500 missiles during those 12 days. So this is a completely different scenario. You could tailor-made your solution toward one target. And this is really the reason why we see a very, very high interception rate when it comes to the Houthis. But also there, we always say it is not hermetic. Unfortunately, sometimes we did see ballistic missiles that penetrated our defense array. So we always say, mainly to our citizens, that once there is a siren, even if they know it's coming from Iran, and even that they know that usually we intercepted, we saw the damage that one of those missiles can do. So we have to go to the shelters. We have to be disciplined to what is being asked by the Home Front Command. So we as you said, I mean, it's different results. Both of them are very good, by the way, but still, Iran is a different story.
General Kimmit, there was a story out of the Department of Defense earlier this week regarding the shipments of arms to the Ukraine, which were halted. At first, it seemed as if it was intentional, policy-driven. Then it was reported that it was simply stock-taking because the stocks were depleted due to the Mideastern problems, the campaigns here, both against Iran and the Israeli campaign on other fronts, and because other theaters, such as the Indo-Pac, may need these stocks, and the reserves have been depleted. And this brings to mind, of course, the 1973 war, when the readiness of U.S. armed forces units went down and was caused a lot of concern to the Joint Chiefs. So does that mean that the United States cannot keep enough munitions for its own and help its friends around the world, and especially in the Middle East?
Well, I think there are two different issues here. One, the production capability, and the second is the policy issues. Let me take the second first. It is clear and well known that our Undersecretary of Policy at the Department of Defense, Bridge Colby, is very, very much against current wars in Europe and the Middle East. He is a China hawk, has been for years. He thinks that we will eventually have a war against China. And he is starting to see his stockpiles around the world being depleted by both Ukraine and the Israel conflict. On the other hand, it's just a matter of mathematics, production capability, and what we keep in our warehouses, how much we can afford to keep in our warehouses. But more importantly, when we start depleting those warehouses, how quickly we can manufacture it. So I think it was somewhat of a perfect storm in terms of what happened. And it was what I understand is that in a odd moment, Pete Hegseth talked to Bridge Colby and said, I wonder if we should be thinking about China and the implications of what's going on here in terms of our inventories. And he has had this memo for quite some time, and he said, glad you asked, handed the memo to Hegseth, and the rest is history. Of course, President Trump is very much focused on the current fights, not the future fights. And so it was brought up, it was announced, and it was within a day repudiated. But it does reflect serious concerns about our ammunition stocks, how quickly we can resupply, how quickly we can remanufacture. And this is something, I was with the former Deputy Secretary of Defense last night from the Rumsfeld period, and even he was bemoaning the fact of how poor our manufacturing processes and our acquisition timelines are, which led to this kind of decision.
Which Rumsfeld period? In the 70s or 25 years ago?
No, the 25 years later.
Now, this is really up your alley as the Paul Mill guy. Is it the result of poor staff work at the highest level, especially because the National Security Council has been diminished and downgraded in this administration, with Marco Rubio doubling as National Security Advisor and many directors being out with no replacement in yet?
No, not at all. In fact, this was a well-known problem in the first days, the first couple of months of Ukraine. Once it settled into a World War I style battlefront where 90% of the time, the only thing happening were artillery rounds being lobbed back and forth, it became very apparent that we had miscalculated the type of warfare that we were going to see in the current period. I mean, the amount of artillery rounds, 10,000 rounds a day being fired by Russia. It was the fact that with the stores and the stockpiles, the Ukrainians could only return about 2,000 a day. It's taken almost 2 years to get both European and American artillery round production on a scale that can keep up with what's being fired on the Ukrainian battlefield. And that's not even accounting for the resupplying of our own stocks. The same thing for Patriot missiles. Nobody anticipated a Houthi-type operation. Nobody anticipated that we would be using Patriot missiles against drones. So it's just a matter of bad forecasting. It has absolutely nothing to do with politics and everything to do with bad predictions.
Miri, we will obviously come back to the question of wars of attrition in the Israeli case. But another story which was quite prominent this week regarding the Israeli campaign in Gaza had to do with the quote-unquote humanitarian city, which the Israeli government, or at least the Minister of Defense, with the blessing of the Prime Minister, intend to set up in the southern part of Gaza, not too far from Rafah. Rafah is now totally destroyed, but there is supposed to be there space and probably tents, a tent city for some 600,000 Gazans. No one yet said they should be there out of their own volition, quote unquote. No one said what the rules of engagement are going to be if they decide out of their own volition that they want to leave and go back north. What should one make of this new idea?
There are a lot of ideas that at the end I want to put on the positive side that have to do with the fact that we want to save lives, that we're not trying to kill Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, that we're trying to go against Hamas. And Hamas are Palestinian and they're part of them, and that's their power base. But there's also hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that want and need to be protected. And here we get to that gap, because it isn't just about establishing a new tent city, which I would like to call a new safe haven. Why do you need a new safe haven? Why are the safe havens that the IDF has told Gazans to go to over the last 21 months to be a place to be safe in, why are they not safe? Because Hamas is a terrorist organization. And what it does is it immediately moves itself right into the heart of the safe havens. And so it becomes something which is, it's like you have to keep moving all of the time. I don't see it. There is no such thing as a solution. What we're looking for are different ways to save people's lives and to try as much as possible to distinguish, and I'm even going to use the word to separate the terrorist from the civilian. And it's an ongoing aspect. There isn't one way to do it. I may not like the words and the terms of the framing of the way that it came out, both from the Minister of Defense and from the government. But the idea behind it at the end is that somebody has to both rule in the Gaza Strip, and you need to do some kind of capability to save people's lives. And that's what this idea is about, is to make yet again another safe haven. And I want to hope for the people in the Gaza Strip that we manage to find something like that without the international community saying to us that what we're doing is the opposite. Because what you're doing is trying to save lives and trying to separate the terrorists. And they're not guerrilla fighters. They are terrorists. They fight from within the people, behind the people, with the people. And the fact that they target now IDF, that's because we're in there. But they'd have no problem to target civilians all the time. And so that's our challenge that we have right now. There's no easy solution to it. And for all of those who are looking for, just do it this way and it'll work. Breathe in deep, very challenging, but we do need to try to save people's lives.
Almost at the end, you sounded like Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg when he dedicated a cemetery for the people and all of that. Doron, as a military professional, maybe you can enlighten us amateurs, civilians, regarding the utility or perhaps the futility of the ceasefire concept, which is supposed to be part of the deal. Israel is supposed to cease its operations for 60 days if this interim deal is struck, and during these 60 days withdraw from some or most of its positions. But then, if after 60 days there is no final deal signed, Israel is supposed to resume fighting. So what's going on here?
If it was up to us, I believe that the best thing would be to cut a deal that everyone would be back, and then to see what is the end result of this war. And Israel already stated how do we see the end result of this war with regards to the Hamas, meaning that the Hamas leaders are out of the Gaza Strip. It means that they are not taking part in leading the Gaza Strip for the future, and the Gaza Strip will be demilitarized area without weapons, and we would like the Hamas to give up their weapons. So this is exactly where we would like to go to. What we are doing now and what is happening, I would say it is the best that probably could be done in order to save some of our hostages' life and to start a momentum that maybe in a way would get us to the end result. And I think that this is really the tension that is now we are all have to deal. By the way, also the United States who is trying to come to also in result or to result in a way what we are seeing in the Gaza Strip. As Miri said, it is super complicated. It is not so easy. There are so many interests that are relevant into it. And the first, and for more than anyone else, is the Hamas, the terrorist organization, that the last thing that they want is relief to their own people. The last thing that they want is that they would be separate from the civilians in the Gaza Strip, because they see them as an asset. They stole the food that they get, and then they sell it again to them, and they make a lot of money out of it. They use them as human shields. They are fighting among their civilians. So I think that one of the main challenges would be where we would be standing with regard to this. Will we be able really to separate at least some of those civilians to this safe haven, and the Hamas that would stay in his own area? Maybe that would be the first stage to the end result that we are all expecting in the Gaza Strip.
Thank you, General Gavish. Thank you, General Kimmit and Colonel Eisen. This has been Israel at War, an update out of TV7 News Israel in Jerusalem. We will be back early next week. For the time being, shalom from Jerusalem.
My name is Eran Lerman. I used to be Deputy National Security Advisor to the Government of Israel, currently Vice President of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, a think tank, and the editor of the Jerusalem Strategic Tribune. For the last few years, I've been a regular panelist for TV7, a fantastic opportunity to bring deep and analytical perspectives to the debate over regional affairs, Israeli affairs, international affairs, in the company of some of the best minds in Israel.